Oh hi. Niger, the state which doesn't have an outlet to the sea in the Western Africa. The capital, the city of Niamey. Niger, one of the poorest countries of the world, which is steadily taking the last place by the Index of Human Development. More than 80% of the territory of the country are located in the Sahara Desert. The rest is occupied with the semi-desert Sahel, which constantly is under the threat of a drought and desertification. The population, numbering a little more than 23 million people, is concentrated on the extreme south and the west of the country. Primary branches of economy are agriculture and mining, mainly uranium. The toponym Niger comes from the Gadronym of the same name across Niger River proceeding through him. The Great River, or the River of the Rivers in language of Tamashka. The northern part of the country is occupied by the Sahara Desert, in the middle of which the stony Acorus Plateau is located. East part of the Acorus abruptly breaks to the huge sandy Tenor Desert, about 400,000 km. In the northeast there is a Dado Plateau. The south of the country is occupied by the semi-desert Sahel. In the southwest of the country, Niger River, forming the fertile plain, proceeds. Geographical location. The Republic of Niger is located in the northeast of the Western Africa. Borders in the north and the northwest on Algeria, in the northeast, on Libya, in the east, on Chad, in the south and the southwest, on Nigeria, in the southwest, on Benin and Burkina Faso, and in the west, on Mali. Has no outlet to the sea. The country is between 11A and 23A northern latitude. 1300 km from the north on the south. Both 0A and 16 east longitude. 2000 km from the west on the east. The territory of Niger has the area of km, taking the 6th place in Africa on the area. After Algeria, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Sudan, Libya and Chad. And also being the largest state in the Western Africa. Niger completely is on the African platform put from Precambrian crystal breeds, granites and slates. Crystal breeds on the most part of the territory are blocked by a sedimentary cover of various age. Paleozoic, Mesozoic, Tertiary and Quaternary. 3 exits of crystal breeds to a surface are rich with minerals. The greatest such exit is the Acorus Plateau, of 60,000 km. On the right river bank, Niger Precambrian breeds leave in the form of rocky hills, forming Plateau Liptako occupying 30,000 km. In the south, near Zinder, ancient breeds form 2 ridges of granite hills of 7,000 km. Granite hills ostensibly leave also in the Tenor Desert and the area Kavar. The sedimentary cover in the western, southern and east parts of the country is put by sea, lake and continental deposits, and in a northern part represents powerful thicknesses of sands. The intensive erosion and duration of geological processes led to alignment of the most part of the territory of Niger. In a relief of the country, plains with heights of 200–500 m above sea level prevail. In the northwest, the Acorus Array, the system of Rise-Novizitny Plateaus stretching for 400 km from the north on the south and on 250 km from the west on the east is located. The highest point, Mount du Contagious, reaches 20–22 m. The plateau is inclined to the west, which is densely cut up by the wadi, the dry beds of the rivers which are filled during a rainy season.
East part of the Acorus abruptly breaks to the huge sandy Tenor Desert about 400,000 km.
In northern Tenor to Fassacid and the central part of Tenor, between the Acorus and Dado Plateau, there are mobile sandy dunes. In the Tenor center Kavar, the steep area with many oases is located. In the southern part of Tenor, the rare grass and bushes constrain sands and create the fixed dunes.
To the west from the Acorus Plateau there is a plain Talak, the desert with mobile dunes of 2,000–3,000 km.
The part of the plain adjoining the Acorus is put by clays and is irrigated with the wadi during a rainy season that is it by a good pasture for nomads. In the northeast sandstone plateaus Dado and Mangini are located. To the east, on border with Chad, the plateau of Fofi and Chagau. These plateaus have steep slopes, are cut up by canyons and are difficult available to the person. In the southeast there is a manga semi-desert, the dried up Lake Chad Hollow. The south of the country is occupied by plains with separate exits of crystal breeds.
The main mineral deposits are in exits of crystal breeds to the Acorus and Liptako Plateau and also in sedimentary rocks of the center and the east of the country.
The main richness of the country is uranium ore, on which reserves Niger is in the 9th place in the world. On the 6th in production. Explored reserves of uranium ore, uranium oxide, are estimated at 200,000 tons. The main deposits of uranium are located in the west of the Acorus Plateau.
Production is conducted in the cities of Ireland and Akuta.
Search works on uranium are conducted also on the Dado Plateau. Large supplies are found in Kavar's oases. There is an assumption that distribution of uranium in Niger is much more extensive. Besides uranium, the country is rich also with other minerals. To the north from the city of Agades there is a coal field Anarar, which stocks make about 6 million tons. The low quality of coal is compensated by a small depth, about 40 m. In the east of Niger, in sedimentary rocks of a hollow of Mang and the Lake Chad, there are oil-bearing layers. The iron ore deposit near the city of Say contains 600–700 million tons of raw materials. Near the city of Tapoa, the large-scale deposit of phosphorites, 500 million tons, is developed. In the neighborhood of settlements Timia and Almeki, the cassiterite containing tungsten and tantalum is extracted. Fields are also found in the city of Zinder. Near the city of Malbaza there are large reserves of limestone and plaster. In Bilm, Fosh's oases and Tegidantessim fields of table salt are developed. In deposits of the river Serba an insignificant placer is found. Separate geological inspections found copper, niobium, lithium, manganese, cobalt, nickel and other minerals.
Geological exploration, studying and development of a subsoil of the country are an important and prospective problem of development of national economy.
Soils of Niger are quite poor. In the north of Niger, on stony plateaus and in sandy deserts the soil cover is practically absent. Only on sites where water appears, prickly bushes and drought-resistant cereals form primitive sandy soils. In the south of Niger, in Sakali, distribution of soils depends on amount of moisture. Generally it is terra rosas and sandy soils of various power. In sandy soils of Sakeli there isn't enough humus that is them vulnerable for a wind erosion. In the east of the country, saline soils are widespread in a hollow of the Lake Chad. In valleys of the rivers, the wadi, and hollows where water gathers, the clay soils favorable for agriculture enriched alluvial meat.
The process of degradation and an erosion of soils leading to desertification of lands therefore fight for restoration and preservation of soils is the most important problem of the country is characteristic of Niger.
The basis of hydrographic network of Niger is made by Niger River with inflows proceeding in the southwest of the country, and the drainless Lake Chad with the Komaduguyob River located in the southeast. In other territory of the country there are only temporary waterways, wadi, which are filled only during a short rainy season. Niger River, the third longest river of Africa, proceeds on the territory of the country about 600 km, creating the extensive fertile plain which is a country granary. The river crosses border with Mali rather not abounding in water, considerably having evaporated in deserts. Throughout 200 km the river passes through crystal breeds of Plateau Liptako. On Niger Niamey, the capital of the country where the river is crossed by one of not numerous bridges, Kennedy Bridge is located. To the south of Niamey the bed of the river is laid in dense sandstones where during floods widely spreads, reaching 5 kilometers in width. On border with Benin Niger bends around spurs of the massif of Atakor, the river bends reminding letter double, B, gave the name to the national park located here. In the territory of the country Niger accepts several inflows, the largest of them from the right coast. Borul, Targol, Serba, Korubi, Tapoa, Alibori, Sel and Tumekar. The majority of right bank inflows dries up during a dry season, from December to June. With the end of a rainy season of the river turn into chains of lakes where water remains long enough. From the left coast only temporary waterways, the largest of them fall into Niger Desola. Wadi. He is barefoot also Mori.
The Lake Chad and the large Komaduguyob River flowing into it form river network of the east of the country.
The Komaduguyob River originates in the territory of Nigeria. The last 150 kilometers of her current form natural border between Niger and Nigeria. During a dry season the river strongly shallows, in January there comes the flood. Niger possesses about 3,000 square kilometers of the water area of the Lake Chad, one of the largest reservoirs of Africa. The area changes from 10 to 26,000 km. And depth from 1 to 4 meters. In July because of intensive evaporation recession of waters, and in January water level the highest is observed. The Lake Chad is rich with fish, however coast are remote because of vegetation, marshiness and change of the coastline. At the north and at the center of the country there are only temporary drains called by the Wadi, measles, Maikti and idleness. In July-August, during a rainy season, in several hours they are filled with water, sometimes causing high waters and forcing locals to lodge on heights.
After rains water is late in them sometime, attaching to courses importance for agriculture and cattle breeding. For example, Enmaradi's idleness has extent in the territory of Niger of 150 kilometers that does it by the largest temporary waterway in the country.
Underground waters in areas of the Akoris Plateau, Dodo and Kavar approach very close a surface, generating oases. In other places they are located at a depth up to 650 meters. Because of dryness of the country, investigation and use of underground waters are very important task. Niger on average temperature is one of the most tropical countries of the world.
Its climate is caused by continental position, proximity of the Sahara and the equator.
Average annual temperature not less than plus 25 C. Average daily fluctuations of temperatures are big. It is cool in the morning, about plus 15 C, and by noon temperature can reach plus 35 C and above. Seasons in Niger allocate not on temperature, and on the mode of an atmospheric precipitation. Here distinguished 3 seasons: dry cool, dry hot and rainy.
The dry cool season, caused by a north continental air flow from the Sahara, lasts from November to February.
Nighttime temperature reaches the minimum annual value plus 8 C, but rises up to plus 30 C in the afternoon. This softest season, a heat of a tourist season. During the dry hot season lasting from February to July, daytime temperature reaches plus 40 C, and night not less than plus 25 C. At this time east wind harmattan who reaches speed in 10 m/s dominates. Harmattan often causes dust storms and the dusty fog for several days, dimming even the southern regions of the country. In April-May, and in the north of the country in June-July, the rainy season begins. Wind is replaced with southwest, rains with the thunderstorm go till several hours a day, causing floods. The maximum of rainfall fall on August. Rainfall is distributed unevenly. In the north of the country, in the Sahara, rainfall goes some hours within 2-4 days, and about 20 drop up. In some regions of rains doesn't happen till some years. In the central regions of the country, in Sahel, average annual rainfall makes 200-250 and rains go 2-4 months, however can be late, or drops out very little. Local droughts, the frequent phenomenon. Only in the extreme south, on border with Benin, 600-800 of rainfall annually drop up. The number of rainy days in a year reaches 65. The most part of the territory of Niger belongs to arid and semi-arid zones. Potential evaporation reaches 20-30 May a year, several times exceeding an amount of precipitation. Periodically the country faces long droughts. They were observed in 1910, 1915, 1940, 1944, 1968, 1974, 1984, 1985. Everywhere groundwater level goes down, dry up wells, agriculture and cattle breeding suffers. In a zone of deserts and semi-deserts, the vegetable cover is extremely resolved. Date palm trees grow in oases of the east of the country. In valleys of the Akoris Plateau, thanks to proximity of groundwaters and temporary waterways, vegetation is more plentiful, there are higher herbs, trees are more numerous. Flora of savannas is presented by various acacias, undersized wild cereals, a wormwood. Herbs and bushes are the main forage for camels, sheep and goats. The majority of trees and bushes of the savanna loses foliage at the beginning of a dry season.
In the period of rains, the savanna becomes covered by a fast-growing grass up to 2 meters high.
Bearded man and elephant grass.
Vegetation of semi-desert strongly suffers from a pasture of the cattle and cutting on fuel. The south of the savanna is more better irrigated during a rainy season, therefore vegetation is more plentiful here.
Rhodri tree and delivered from India, a seaberry cotton tree, baobabs. Flora of riverbanks, Niger is richest and various. From trees the mango and papayas yielding juicy fruits, acacias and palm trees grow here. The bamboo grows in the floodplain of the river. The great number of insects lives in Niger. Big harm to economy is done by mosquitoes, a locust and termites. Niger, other rivers and also lakes are rich with fish. Savanna reptiles are various. Snakes and lizards, from geckos to large monitor lizards, are found in Niger River. Crocodiles. From birds, ostriches, eagles, white-headed signature stamps, kites are numerous. Ducks, geese, sandspurs, herons, cranes, ibises, storks, a marabou live in the southern savanna. From October to March in Niger, migratory birds from the north including from Europe winter. Antelopes are found in the desert and anadics. In the savanna, gazelles, a gazelle lady and corin, cheetahs, hyenas and jackals also meet. In the southern savanna, because of development by the person, there were not so many habitats of large mammals. Nevertheless, here it is possible to meet giraffes, antelopes, boars, lions. At the Lake Chad and on a right bank of Niger River, 2 herds of elephants wander, and hippopotamuses are found in the river. When in the territory of the modern Sahara Desert rather humid climate reigned, residents of Niger differed from modern.
In 7th-6th millennium BB in Niger there was Kafiski culture, which representatives were tall, had a massive constitution. In 5th-3 millennium BB it was changed by Teneriski culture, which completely disappeared after drying of the Sahara.
Possibly, her survived carriers migrated in more humidified areas. East part of Niger long time was under board of the Empire of Kanem, and soon under the administration of the Kingdom to Born.
The western territory of Niger from 13th to the 15th centuries was partially won by the Empire of Mali, but after her crashed the neighboring principality Songhai, which took the western part of the valley of Niger River under control, but stronger to the status of the kingdom.
However, in 1591 the Sangaiski power was won by army of the Sultan of Morocco. At the same time the southern regions, which are in the territory of modern Niger, kept independence.
There was a principality of the Dandi led by Askinaki ruling from Lulani.
The border with Morocco passed on the place of modern border of Mali and Niger. Subsequently the principality of the Dandi broke up to several small principalities. The descendant Askia governed each of which. In the 18th century the most part of the territory of Niger passed under the power of Tuaregs, the nomad tribes, since the 7th century living in the north of modern Niger. They based a sultanate at Agades and had commercial base in Niamey. Tuaregs had no centralized government. Only when preservation of their way of life was under the threat, they united in free confederation. The south of present Niger was inhabited by the settled agricultural people. In the valley of Niger the principality of the Dandi and the kingdom of Dosa were located Sangaiski. To the east there were city-states of Ahaus, the largest of which in the territory of Niger were Maradi and Damagaram. After Jihad Yulan and formations of the Caliphate of Sokoto, the population of the Niger states of Ahaus strongly increased at the expense of refugees from the conquered southern cities.
Scott Mungo Park surveying Niger River in 1805-1806 was the first European who got on the territory of Niger.
Heinrich Bott and Edward Vogel made an 1853-1855 expedition from Niger River to the Lake Chad. They visited Cs, Sokoto, Zinder, Pure and Borna.
In 1870, the territory of Niger during the travel through the Sahara in Can, Borno was crossed by Gustave Nachtigal, having visited Bilma and Ngigmi.
At the Berlin Conference in 1884, Niger was included in the French sphere of influence. At the same time, exact borders had to be defined by the principle of effective occupation. In 1897, the French sent a mission of the Captain Kazamashu to Zinder, the capital of a sultanate Damagaram. Originally well met, he was killed with one of fractions at court of the Sultan, which was afraid of the French influence.
For punishment, Damagaram and researchers of area up to the Lake Chad, the military expedition under command of Captains Paul Vieux and Charles Chenoin was equipped.
Vieux's mission, Chenoin, became history of Niger. The cruelty and a Krovavost, thousands of locals were killed, the set of Hausansky settlements is burned. In 1900, the French founded the military territory Zinder, which later was a part of the colony de Top Senegal Niger, entering, in turn, the French Western Africa. In 1905-1906, Muslim preachers and local sultans tried to show armed resistance to the French. From 1920th years, the French colonialists actively introduced cultivation of various crops in the territory of Niger, intensively developed infrastructure. First of all, a road network, and hired locals for work at the industrial enterprises in other coastal colonies in the French Western Africa. In 1946, Niger received the status of the overseas territory as a part of the French Union. The Electoral General Council, local self-government institutions, was created. Generally, places in them were taken by leaders of local tribes. 1958, Niger becomes the Autonomous Republic of the French Community. 1960, independence finding.
The parliament is chosen by Amani Diori by the president of the country.
1968-1973, the strongest drought in Massachusetts moraine and destruction of a harvest. 1974, Amani Diori's overthrow as a result of a military coup headed by the Lieutenant Saint Kanchi. 1987, Kunch dies from cancer a brain. Ali Sibu, the head of armed forces of the state, comes to his place. 1989, under the new constitution, Niger returns to civilian rule, but in the country the one-party system remains. Sibu is elected the president. 1990, Sibu enters multi-party system after a wave of strikes and demonstrations. 1990, the revolt of Tuaregs begins in the north.
July 1991, the Constitutional Forum deprives of Sibu of his powers and forms the transitional government, at the head of which there is André Salafou.
1992, under the new constitution in the country, multi-party elections are entered. 1993, Mahamane Ousmane is elected the president. The coalition which supported him, Alliance of the Forces of Change, receives the majority of seats in parliament. 1995, between the government and revolutionary armed forces of Tuaregs of the Sahara Desert. Tuaregs Revolutionary Armed Forces of the Sahara. A truce is called. In January 1996, in Niger, the second military coup headed by the Colonel Ibrahim Toubara Manasserai is committed. The President Mahaman Ousmane was expelled from the country. In May 1996, on a referendum, the new constitution conferring to the president additional powers and also limiting political activity in the country is adopted. In July 1996, Manasara wins presidential elections. Elections took place with violations. All other candidates were put under house arrest. Manasara was criticized for repressive actions. On him several attempts were made. April 1999, the Major Dauda Wank inherits the presidential power after Manasara's murder by his bodyguards.
August 1999, the new constitution approved on a referendum restores balance between legislative and executive branches of the power.
October-November 1999, the president is chosen Tanji Mamadou. His party, the National Movement for Society in Development. The National Movement for the Society in Development receives the majority of seats in parliament. January 2001, in Niger, hunting for a number of animals, including lions and giraffes, is forbidden. 2004, Tanji Mamadou is elected the president for the second term.
In August 2009, Tanji Mamadou initiated a referendum on which the amendments to the constitution lifting limits for number of terms of re-election of the head of state and conferring him additional powers were adopted.
Amendments were adopted despite opposition protests. The Constitutional Court, which recognized them as illegal, is dismissed. Also, the Parliament was dismissed. In the country, the discontent with the president increased.
On February 18, 2010, military of Niger carried out a coup d'état.
It was declared creation of the Supreme Council for the Restoration of Democracy. It is suspended the constitution of the country, institutes of the power are dismissed, the curfew is entered, borders and airspace of the country are closed. The President Mamadou Tanji is taken out to one of barracks. The Major Toussal Debo was declared the head of military junta which had to organize lawful presidential elections. Military promised that none of them or from members of provisional government will participate in elections. In March 2010, the former Minister of Tourism and one of leaders of insurgents of Risegi Bula was arrested on a charge of murders. On October 31, 2010, on a constitutional referendum of 19% of voices at a 52.02% appearance, the new constitution which proclaimed the Seventh Republic was adopted. Presidential elections together with parliamentary took place on January 31, 2011. On March 12 there took place the second round. Mahamadou Issoufou became the new president of Niger. On April 7 there took place the inauguration, during which Toussal Debo delegated the power to the duly elected president. In May 2011 the authorities of Niger banned the former president Mamadou Tanji, who stayed in the conclusion about 14 months. In July 2011 the attempt of a coup took place. The political system of Niger, the Republic. The head of state, the President Mohamed Bazoum. Since April 2, 2021. Parliament, Unicameral National Assembly. 113 deputies elected by the population for 5-year term with a possibility of single re-election. Traditional leaders are recognized as carriers of common law, the Constitution of Niger. Article 167. Political parties following the results of parliamentary elections in January 2011. Niger Party for Democracy and Socialism. -39 deputies. The National Movement for Society of Development. NASAR. -26 deputies. The Niger Democratic Movement for the African Federation. Lumana is fashionable / minus 24 deputies. Niger Alliance for Democracy and Progress. Zaman Lakia. Minus 8 deputies. Association for Democracy and Progress. Minus 7 deputies. The Union for Democracy in the Republic of Habit. Minus 6 deputies. Democratic and Social Convention. Rakama. Minus 2 deputies. Amin Bazender hands the accrediting diploma to the President of Russia Dmitry Medvedev on February 5, 2010. Diplomatic relations of the USSR and Niger are established on February 17, 1972. During the Soviet period, contracts on trade. 1962. Cultural cooperation. 1963. Economic and technical cooperation. 1975. Cooperation in use of solar energy. 1976. And others are signed. In September 1992, the Embassy of Russia in Niger, and in October 1995, Niger Embassy in Russia was closed. In the Soviet and Russian higher education institutions, more than 400 experts from Niger are trained. Russia annually allocates 5 state grants for training of students from Niger.
The interests of Russia in Niger are represented by the Ambassador of Russia in the Republic of Mali, Alexei Gaikovich Dulian. I presented credentials on October 12, 2010.
The interests of Niger in Russia are represented by the Ambassador of Niger in Germany, Madame Amina Debo Bazinda.
I presented credentials on February 5, 2010.
Russia has also economic interests in Niger. The Zarubis company in 2011 started construction of a dam on Niger River in Kandati.
The hydropower Kandati complex represents a dam 8.5 km long and 28 m high, and also 4 hydrogenerators with a total power of 130 million.
The cost of the contract minus 130 million euros. Construction will last 5 years.
In 2011, Gazprom Bankagades obtained the license for development of uranium fields Tuluk-2 and Tuluk-4 in the region.
Later, the contract about Zarubis was terminated because of non-execution of the obligations by this company. Armed Forces of Niger. Forces Armies Nigerians FAN. Total 5,300 people of regular structure, and about 5,400 people of service staff. Selective conscription works. Unmarried men of 17, 21 years for 2 years are called. Women can at desire serve in sanitary parts. 1.3% of VVV are spent for military needs. That is rather low indicator. In the administrative relation is divided into the capital district Niamey and 7 regions, which are in turn divided into 36 departments. Departments consist of city and rural communes. Population minus 23 million. Assessment for 2019. Annual gain minus 3.7%. To the 2010, one place in the world. Birth rate minus 51.1 for 100. Total coefficient of birth rate, the highest in the world, minus 6.49 births on the woman. 2017. Mortality minus 14.5 for 1000. Average life expectancy. Men have 52 years, women have 54 years. Middle age minus 15 years, 68% of the population is younger than 25 years. Infantile mortality minus 115 for 1000. The third place in the world. Contamination, a virus of an immunodeficiency. HIV. Minus 0.8%. Assessment for 2007. Literacy of the population, about 28%. 43% of men, 15% of women, assessment of 2005. Urban population minus 16%. In 2008. Niger, the multinational state. Across the territory of the country there passes the border of resettlement of Caucasian and Negroid races. More than 90% of the population of the country belong to Negroid race. The Tuaregs living in the north to the Mediterranean type of Caucasian race. Fulbe, the mixed people. Most of the population of Niger, 55.4%, is made a house by the countries inhabiting the south along border with Nigeria. Songa, together with related to the Majerma, the Dandi, Kurti and Vogue, the making 21% of the population of Niger are very numerous. Besides Niger, many live in the neighboring Mali and the Dandi in Benin. In Niger and Ajerma occupy the western part of the country, the valley of Niger River. Jerma make most of the population of Niamey. In the past of Ajerma were famous for military art, still at them the prestige of the military aristocracy is high. In Dosso there is a residence, the traditional leader of all of Ajerma. During colonialism of Ajerma helped the French to suppress revolts of other people. Jerma and more other people perceive the Western culture. Tuaregs make 9.3% of the population of the country. They inhabit generally the country north, the region Agades, departments of other regions and also the valley of Niger River, boundary with them. Tuaregs live also in Mali, Algeria and Libya, neighboring to Niger. Many Tuaregs lead a nomadic life or engaged, generally in livestock production. In Niger, Tuaregs appeared in the 10th century, being forced out by Arabs from North Africa.
Tuaregs are united in confederations of tribes, the military aristocracy choosing from the ranks of leaders of tribes and confederations, and also the Sultan heir, the traditional head of all Tuaregs of Niger, holds big authority.
Are settled by Fulbe. Ilan in house language. Among other people of Niger and make 8.5% of the population of the country. Widespread on all Western Africa, Fulbe have reputation of professional shepherds. They lodge among the agricultural people, especially among a house, and take from them the cattle on a pasture, exchanging livestock products for agricultural goods. Fulbe lead a nomadic and semi-nomadic life. Settled to a Fulbe combine cattle breeding with agriculture, returning to native villages to harvesting. Kanuri and related Imang is made by 4.7% of the population of Niger. They live in the southeast of the country, in the region of Dif, near the Lake Chad. The most part of a Kanura lives in Nigeria and Chad. In the Middle Ages they were creators of the states of Kanem and Borno. Modern places of resettlement of Akanura were taken as a result of numerous migrations. At the same time their various groups remember the place of the origin. Generally Kaner farmers, but some tribes are engaged also in livestock production, leading a semi-nomadic life. From crafts production of products from skin is most widespread. Tutube make a basis of the cattle breeding population of the east of the country. She are settled in Dodo's oases, Kavar and the Termite Plateau. Unlike other nomads of Niger, Tuaregs and Tuae-Fulbe, Tutube belong to Negroid race. They are called black nomads of the Sahara. The majority Tuae-Tube, there are about 40,000 people. 0.4% of the population live in Chad and Libya in Niger. The traditional leader Niger Tuae-Tube is the Sultan Kavara. Tuae-Tube lead a nomadic and semi-nomadic life, breed camels and goats.
Settled Tuba in oases, own date palm trees and salt mines, and also grow up barley, millet and wheat.
Many Tuae-Tube are also engaged in caravan trade. Arabs in Niger are small, them about 40,000 people. 0.4% of the population live.
The majority belongs to Yult Sliman clans, Sho and Kanemi.
To Niger they migrated at the beginning of the 20th century, having lodged in areas border with Libya, and also in the southwest of the country. Also 5,000–6,000 Europeans, generally the French, live in Niger. Most of them, the teachers and technical specialists working in the country a certain term. The greatest groups of Europeans live in Niamey and other large cities. State language, French. Other languages. House and other local adverbs. The dominating religion in the country is Islam of Sunni sense. 80% of the population. The Malikitsky religious and legal school is most widespread among Muslims of Niger.
The Sufi ward of Atidzana in central Qadiriya is influential in the southern regions of the country.
The number of Christians, 110,000 in 2010. Considerably grew for the last decades. In 1970 in Niger there were 17,000 Christians, in 2000, 58,000. Most of Christians, Protestants. 80,000. Besides them are available communities of Catholics. 30,000. And Jehovah's Witnesses. The largest Protestant faiths, Evangelists and Pentecostals, including from the Assemblies of God. By estimates, 7% of the population of the country adhere to local African beliefs. Their share in the general population of the country steadily decreases. In the country also exist group of Bakhaist, 5.7 thousand. And Sikhs, 3.3 thousand. Advantages: huge reserves of uranium. The fifth place in the world on production, -2983 tons in 2019. In the late 90s oil and gas fields are found. Weaknesses: dependence on the foreign help. Growth of debts after falling of the prices of uranium in the 80th. Only 3% of the earth are suitable for agriculture. Undeveloped infrastructure, frequent droughts, instability. Natural resources, fields of uranium, iron ore, phosphorites, coal, tin, tungsten, tantalum, molybdenum, gold, manganese. Niger, one of the poorest countries of the world. DDD per capita in 2009, $700. The 222nd place in the world. Below the poverty line, minus 41.4% of the population. The country has the lowest index of human development in the world. Niger, the agrarian country with the developing uranium mining industry. Extraction of uranium ore, cassiterite. Nomadic cattle breeding. Crafts. Enterprises for processing of agricultural raw materials. Fishery. Grow up a sugar cane, peanut, a sorghum, a cotton, a millet, cassavas. Extraction of uranium is important branch of national economy.
Deposits of uranium ore were found by absolutely accidentally French Commission on Atomic Energy in 1958.
The inspection and assessment of the field to audit which were carried out in 1966 confirmed a possibility of economic use of fields, and in 1971 Niger sent for export the first consignment of uranium ore in 400 tons.
The volume of the extracted uranium constantly increased, having reached
5,000 tons in 1980. At the same time, Niger came to the second place in the world on extraction of uranium, and income from his export was up to 50% of the state budget. In the 1980th years there was uranium crash. Decrease in global demand together with redundancy of production in other countries was led to falling of the world prices. Extraction of uranium in Niger decreased to 2,000 tons in the early 90s years. By 1990th year the country was left to 80% of foreigners, the majority of whom was connected with extraction of uranium. Now the uranium industry slowly recovers. Annual extraction of uranium ore exceeded 3.5 thousand tons, and the corresponding share of revenues of the state grew to 8%. In structure of DDD, the sector of industrial production occupies 17.76%. In the country cement is produced, the textile industry is adjusted, and also soap and drinks are produced.
The enterprises for processing of agricultural raw materials work.
Several plants on cleaning of peanut, a creamery in the cities of Maradi, Magaria and Matami, small Risuakeli and cotton processing factories, the plant of soft drinks and milk plant, cotton mill, skinneries in Zinder and Maradi, factory of products from plastic, factory of hardware in Niamey. The crafts giving products on domestic market are important. 90% of able-bodied population are engaged in agriculture. It gives 39% of DDD. Because of hot climate and the desert area, only 3.5% of the territory of the country are processed. Agriculture completely depends on a rainfall, frequent droughts. The main consumer culture, a millet, 2.1 million tons. And also a sorghum, cassavas, rice, sweet potato, a yam. Collecting Arabic gum, a capic, kernels to the carriage is conducted.
The main export culture, peanut, which buying up and sale in foreign markets are carried out by National Society of Peanut.
For export also cotton, tobacco, dates, vegetables are grown up. The pasturable livestock production, mainly nomadic and semi-nomadic, partially distant pasture, gives means of livelihood of 20% of the population of Niger. There are no railroads in Niger. Export and import goods are carried by the motor transport to the cities of Perakau in Benin and Kano in Nigeria, and from there, the railroad to the ports of Cotonou and Lagos. Construction of the railroads and providing an outlet to the sea, the most important problem of development of transport in Niger. There are projects of extension of branch lines from Benin, from Nigeria, and also construction of Trans-Saharan and Trans-Sahelo railroads.
The number of Internet users in Niger for 2017 doubled earlier. As of 2013, the percent of users was estimated at 1.41.
The number of subscribers of cellular networks in Niger in 2016, on the basis of data of CIA of Shaw, was estimated at 91,000 pieces. The 88th place in the world. Annually the country more than 60,000 people. Data of 2006. Visit 36,000. 60%. From other countries of Africa. 17,000 Europeans, generally French. The cost of stay in Niamey is $128 a day, outside the capital it is much lower. Yellow fever and cholera inoculations are necessary for receipt of a visa. Export made app. $603 million. Uranium concentrates. Up to 55% of cost. Oil products. Up to 16% of cost. Olive raw materials, gold, peanut, products of cattle breeding. The main buyers of goods from Niger: France 45%, Mali 16%, the People's Republic of China 16%, South Korea 11%. Import made app. $931 million. Food products, products of mechanical engineering and chemical industry, transport equipment, oil products, industrial goods. The main suppliers: France 18%, India 12%, Ghana 11%, China 10%. The State Broadcasting Company of Niger, Orton. Office de Radiodiffusion Télévision du Niger, Management of Broadcasting and Television of Niger. Is created on February 11, 1967. The first radio station, Voix du Sahel, enters into Orton. Is started on July 31, 1958, Channel 1 Tele-Sahel, enters into Orton. In 1964, the second public TV channel Tal TV, on December 18, 2001. The Niger branch of the French Institute of Black Africa, created in 1949, which director was the first Niger historian Boubou Hama, was the first scientific institution in Niger. The branch was the only scientific institution in the country by the time of obtaining independence. In the capital, the National Museum; in Agades, the Clay Mosque. In 1969, over 75% of inhabitants are illiterate. 19% competent. 2018. The system of school education of Niger developed under the influence of the French model. Training is conducted in French. In 1994/1995 academic year, at elementary schools studied app. 450,000 children, and in averages app. 90,000. The ratio of boys and girls in educational classes made 2:1. Though under the law training of children aged from 7 up to 15 years is obligatory, many of them, especially in rural areas, don't attend school. Only 30% of children of the corresponding age go to elementary school and less than 10% in average.
Upon termination of training term at elementary school, examination of which are defined worthy is organized to continue study at high school.
In 1973, the State University in Niamey was open. The most capable pupils get the state grants for education in the countries of the Western Africa and France. Niger country, where a half of the population is younger than 15 years, however number of pupils at the universities one of the smallest in Africa, 127 students on 10,000 of the population. 2015.
Opening in 2010 at once of 3 universities became one of global achievements of the higher education in Niger.
University of Maradi, University of Zinder and University of Tahua. The youth of Niger can study also in Muslim educational institutions. In 1987 in the city of Saudi, Islamic University opened. Niger participates in the Olympic Games since 1964. In 1972, Sakadabori won bronze in boxing competitions. In 2016, Isufa Abdul Razak became the silver prize winner of the Summer Olympic Games of 2016 on Taekwondo. Weight category over 80 kg. And in 2017 became the world champion. Holidays. On January 1, New Year. On February 9/11, Days of Martyrs. On March 8, Day of the Woman. On April 24, Day of Consent. It is noted in honor of day of the conclusion of the peace agreement with Tuaregs in 1995. On May 25, Day of Africa. On August 3, the Independence Day. On October 16, Day of Army. On December 18, Declaration of the Republic. Also far. Write comments. Read comments. Interesting people will tell interesting stories. All of good mood and good luck.